Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another exciting episode of CyberGangsters CyberSecurity. And I'm really excited about tonight. So, as everyone knows, the goal here is to share knowledge, to share experiences, put the spotlight on places that encourage us. And with that, there's no difference tonight. And, I get experts that come on, and from time to time, I get people who are journeying into cybersecurity who have successfully made that journey and are in there. And I'd love to bring them on so that we can highlight their success, their victories, and encourage the community, right? So I don't like to just consume, but I love to contribute. I love to create and provide content also. And so with that tonight, I want to welcome one of my I want to say best favorite. I want to be careful not to make everyone feel bad, but I'm very excited about my guest tonight, and this is Cristian Castañeda. Cristian, how are you doing tonight?
Good, good. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm glad you are too. Look. Cristian reached out to me, and I'm glad you did. He was like, "Hey, man, I'd really like to come on the show," and I was like, "Well, heck yeah!" Anytime someone wants to reach out and is like, "I've got something I want to say or I can share," I'm always open to it, right? Because I'm one guy, and it's hard to reach out to so many people. So if some people like to reach out, I'm like, yes. And Cristian, the reason he's coming on tonight, which I'll get to here in a second, is one of those encouraging ones, right? So I met Cristian some months ago and got the pleasure of working with him on a project on a cybersecurity project. And Cristian, when I first met you, my first impression of you was super high, man. I was like, yo, this cat is he's gonna do something. Like, there's no doubt about it. The energy and effort that you output into not just the project, but just into yourself, like, it was just high. And I was like, oh man, I know this guy's gonna do awesome. And you have. I feel like you've made an accomplishment this year. You did some major growth, right?
Very much. It's been an amazing journey so far.
Yeah, I've seen your. I remember looking at your LinkedIn post at the beginning, and I was like, man, he is putting out some killer. Not just your fly photos that you put out. If you don't know, go and we'll make sure to put his LinkedIn later. But he puts out some fly photos of him, and man, you got your jacket on, you got your shirt, and he's always looking in these tight poses on there, guys. And I would say Cristian is someone, when I saw you building your brand before I even got to mine, and I thought, man, like that, you set a great example for me, Cristian. I may not follow in the same way, but I feel like you set a great example at building your brand out.
Much appreciated.
Was that intentional by any way?
What, like my brand aspect?
Yeah, like do it. Yeah, all the way you do. So you do some enlightening posts too. I don't want to make it seem like you're just this LinkedIn model, but you are. But you're also doing some very informative posts on PCI, on GRC, in the cybersecurity field, and so you're always dropping great nuggets, man. But was that on purpose in the beginning, kind of thing? Did you plan it out that way?
Yeah. I ultimately believe if you want to get somewhere, if you want to level yourself up, you have to be intentional with everything you do. Just being wishy-washy, being up and down, and not really deciding what you want long term isn't going to get you as far as you would like to. So you have to be intentional with every choice, with every action, with everything you do on a regular basis.
Okay. It shows. It definitely shows, man. So look, one of the things that I have come across a lot in my circles and in my communities is there's a lot of people who are always looking and wanting to get into cybersecurity, right? They're wanting to make a journey into it. They are, a lot of the people that I meet, Cristian, they are people who are wanting to better their life, right? They look at cybersecurity and they think, they have this feeling and this thought that is going to help make their lives better and different. And I can't argue with them, right? A lot of the people who I'm talking about, they come from different walks of life. They come from areas where they've just put in a lot of work, and they're like, I have little to show for it, or I'm tired of running my body. Truck drivers and construction workers, for example, and they're like, I feel like I'm a smart person and I want to utilize more. And so for whatever reasons, they found their way into wanting to get into cybersecurity in some form or fashion. I want to highlight tonight, and this is for everyone out there, I want to highlight Cristian's journey, how that began, how it went through. We're going to look at, or we're going to listen to some of the challenges, some of the victories there. He's going to share some insight and some advice for all of us. So if you're looking and want to be encouraged on how to get into it, or listening to one man's journey into cybersecurity, you're the right place tonight. Okay. And so with that, when you hear this part of the message, say hello to us in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. And with that being said, let's get started, Christian. So, all right, man. So start from the beginning for us. Tell us, where were you and how did you know that you wanted to get on the journey into cybersecurity?
Well, first things first, I graduated out of high school back in 2014. So it's been almost a decade since I graduated school. Joined the military. That is honestly, my very first step, my very first endeavor, journey, process of getting into technology. Because obviously the military is very heavy on technology and very heavy on security. And as I transitioned to the military, I didn't really understand security. I didn't understand controls and compliance, et cetera. When you first start something, you don't understand the depth of what you're doing or what the purpose of what you're doing. And you're just assigned a task from somebody above you and you go and do that task, which is what the majority of people think. And as I transitioned to my roles, I started out, in desktop support, IT support, basic technology, working in different companies and organizations doing support and IT and administration. And I thought for myself is I was going to stay in the technology route in the administration, and of course, getting certifications, going to school, going the traditional route, which a lot of people are obviously chasing and are going for. And, that's fine. It's great. But I didn't see the growth, the progress that I wanted over years and years of following the traditional route. Because here's what I learned. If you want to achieve different success, achieve your goals, you got to do things that the majority are not doing. You got to do what the minority are doing. And sadly, sometimes what the minority are doing, it's not out in the public. So you're not aware of what tools are out there. But I realized, information is so available now. And one of the things I can tell everybody is you got to be disciplined and you have to be a little bit driven to find the information that you need in order to progress your life personally, because obviously school is not going to truly teach you what you need to learn. Yes, your certain experiences in your past can teach you something, but you got to be driven to build yourself up step by step. And yeah, I can keep going forward.
Yeah.
You like me to go on forward?
Yeah. Well, let's rewind a little bit first. So you graduated high school, right? And then you didn't go directly into college or even to a skill or trade school or anything like that.
The military
you went into the military, and because of the military, you got a little bit of experience, or whatever level of experience. You got experience in the military, working with like hardware, like computer components of various kinds, right? Then after you exited the military, you got like your first job happened to be on a help desk.
Yep, help desk, IT support.
Okay, so help desk and IT support. So that's something of notice, everyone, because a lot of times we feel like, how can we get into the realm? And sometimes we feel like, oh, we don't know enough about IT. And I think, Christian, that sounds like that. I think that's a great way to get into multiple areas when it comes to IT. It's such a large umbrella, right? Cybersecurity is its own umbrella also, but the help desk, IT support, that's sometimes a real good way to kind of wiggle into the field, right?
Yeah, and I'll do a little add-on. That is actually, in my opinion, one of the best ways, because when you're doing IT support, you're getting into a lot of technologies, you're working around a lot of very technical, highly technical people, system administrators, engineers, etc. So it really does give you the baseline understanding of just technologies, etc. Because the world revolves around technology on a regular basis.
That's such a great point, because, yeah, when you start getting deeper into IT, you start specializing into certain areas and fields, right? And I think you're right. When you start off in that IT, that help desk, it is a good, like you said, baseline. It allows you, to see all that there is when it comes to IT, including cybersecurity in there, right? And so you can see all the different possible paths that are available to you. What I would kind of include with that is it can't be easy. but sometimes it can be. And I've always found when it comes to getting that lucky break, it's going to be about the networking that you do. So if you find yourself here tonight, here's two guys who you can network with easily, but make sure you start looking for folks that you can network with to help you. I mean, just to help you in general, actually. You never know when someone's got a position open somewhere and they've seen your name or they ask someone for a recommendation and they're like, oh, yeah, hey, my buddy over here, Chris, he's over there. He might be a good shoe-in for this. So I would definitely say network as much as you can with and it's hard to say right people, but just with people, in the field. You don't know when that can help you out big time down the road. So
yeah, I do want to add to that part is networking is a very, very important aspect to finding new positions. You're looking for a new job. You're trying to do something different, learn a new skill set. Because of course, knowing something is very important. Having a hard skill set is very important. But having the soft skill sets and being able to communicate with people and building relationships so you can connect with other people, that's going to get you, I believe, in my experience, even further than just knowing something. Because in the end, you can always learn the skill sets when you're on the job. But when you build relationships with people, you know how to communicate and present yourself to leadership executives, you can take it to the next level.
Yeah. And you think about it, right? Like it's easy when we go job hunting and we see, especially on LinkedIn, you see sometimes where it says how many people are applying for this job, right? And sometimes you can feel a certain way about that. But the networking aspect is a way to kind of help, I won't say circumvent it, but if you know somebody for a company that's got a position opening for, like, I feel like one of the biggest aspects to interviews, Cristian, is that personability piece, right? People, organizations, hiring managers, they want to look at you and not just see what your technical expertise is, but they kind of want to know your personality type. What are you going to mesh well with our team and with the company culture and things like that? And so they're filling that out, right? And if you know that person, if there's a networking opportunity that's there, you get a lot of that. I won't say out of the way, but a lot of that is put in there already. So anyhow. So okay, Cristian.
Yeah. I'll do a little add on to that.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. As far as like the job hunting and, like what you mentioned, when you go to the LinkedIn post or you go to the Indeed or whatever, and you see all these applications that are already there, it is going to be very difficult to filter yourself out from the individuals that are applying for that position, because there's a lot of people with similar experience to you. So obviously you have to stand out, above the crowd, which is there comes the relationship part, the communication part, and knowing somebody that can help you get to the next level and set yourself apart from that group.
Yeah. And branding. That goes back to what we were talking about earlier for you. Like, it's easy to go look at Cristian on LinkedIn and be like, yo, okay, this is the cat that dresses fly and he makes these posts. And so, once you've got these positive aspects built into you too, it also helps reiterate for that hiring manager, potentially, I don't want to make this sound like this is a 100%, cookie cutter ABC will equal the job opportunity. Okay. But you do these things, and these are just opportunities to they give you a better chance. So, networking, creating that brand or that online presence, however way you want to say that, putting yourself out there in those situations. One of the things I appreciate, Cristian, when you reach out to me and my enthusiasm for you coming on and talking like this, I feel like these type of opportunities are mutually beneficial. I get a guest to come on and it helps me get noticed, because it's like, oh, okay, this guy knows the cybersecurity field. He knows people, he knows how to talk with them. And I feel like those are skills that I can showcase. And then for people, my guests, such as yourself, come on, it puts that opportunity for the spotlight to shine on you. You get to tell your story, and it just further cements or anchors your skills and talents and why people should invest in you. Right. And that's what I want to do, is make sure. So like tonight, my goal is to make sure I'm making you look good, man. So it doesn't take much to do that, though. Let me just tell you that right now. Okay. You're doing just fine all on your own, Cristian. Okay. So let's say you on the help desk. Okay. So somewhere along the lines in the help desk, was there some sort of epiphany or this thing that happened for you where you were like, what led you next? Where did your journey take you on next after during the help desk?
We'll say start off in my first help desk position. I was literally transitioning from basic help desk to finally landing a system administrator position by about 3 roles, which was a couple of years. And I realized when I was in a system admin position, there was a gap in my knowledge and experience. Because when you're the IT person, you're the one that always fixes the problems of the organization. You miss a lot of the compliance and the auditing language, which the organization that you work for always has to meet, in one way or another. Every organization, no matter who you work with, has to abide by some type of standard or requirements. They have policies and procedures, etc. And that to me was boring because I didn't understand it. But once I put myself out there and work with auditors and analysts, I realized, there's something more that I'm lacking. I understand the tech side of it, but I don't understand the business much. I'm just fixing the problems. And that's what separates the individual who's the IT guy and fixes stuff to the consultant. And that's where I made my transition and what I was lacking. And I realized, I need to get out there and fill in those gaps in my knowledge and experience.
Okay. So it was more like, or not more like it, but it was what I'm hearing you say is, while on the help desk, as helpful and knowledgeable as you got and were giving, it was sort of like a jack of all trades, master of none. And so then you get into your system administrator role and you realize that there's some specialty involved in that. And it's no longer IT help desk knowledge, right? Now you've got to start specializing the knowledge, right? Now you got to start siphoning it or siloing it into the specific area right here. And then that's fine. And so you noticed that there was some sort of gap in the knowledge from your knowledge to what I guess like maybe some senior system administrators in your groups or whatever, right? Okay. And so go ahead.
Yeah, and also just working with just the auditors and / analysts that come on site to do our internal audits. And that's what I was lacking, as I didn't understand that side of the business. And that's the consulting side of the business. And that's what I lacked. And that's what I realized I needed to fill that gap in with working with executives and leadership, etc.
Okay, nice. So when you was there, where did you go next? Where did your sites take you on next and experiences?
My sites. Well, I was just obviously like everybody else. Sometimes you look on social media, you're looking on YouTube, you're looking on LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever, seeing all these tech guys, that are basically doing very well for themselves. They've transitioned into different sectors and they've been specializing in specific fields in cybersecurity. And I realized it is a very, very broad industry, a very broad field. There is no one specific field that beats all. It just depends what interests you, what you like, and what you can be good at. And I realized being technical is great and all, but I wanted to be a consultant of some sort. And just seeing a lot of videos on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, seeing all these professionals in their consulting fields in cybersecurity and I realized, I want to follow cybersecurity. And my specific field and route that I wanted to follow was the GRC space, which is the governance, risk, and compliance. You're basically an analyst / auditor.
Okay. So give us a little bit more into that. Governance, risk, and compliance. What about that? Like give everyone kind of a pretty general synopsis on what that is. And then if you could follow that up with what exactly in there attracted you to that.
Sure. So governance, risk, and compliance. I'll just say the G first, which is governance, which is the processes, the procedures, the senior leadership, executives, management that governs the process of the business. The R, which is the risk management. Ultimately, you're never going to get rid of risk with any organization you work for. It's all about risk management. So what is the organization implementing as far as their controls, their technologies, their people, processes to mitigate risks? Compliance, which is the C of the G, is what compliance frameworks and standards and regulatory compliance frameworks does the organization need to follow? If you're in healthcare, you're going to have to follow a lot of HIPAA requirements, for example. That is one of the things that I used to work with in my previous position is we worked with auditors and analysts and had to comply with a lot of HIPAA compliance requirements. What else you said you wanted me to explain?
So after explaining that, then help us understand what was the driving force, or whatever was involved for you looking at GRC and being like, that's yes. So
one of the things that really was brought to my attention is understanding administration, understanding technology, understanding compliance, and how all these things work together. Because I ultimately didn't see it that way. It was just seeing the technology side of it or the tech side of it, and that was it for me. So the gap was just what was I missing in my knowledge? Where did I want to go? What directions did I want to take, and who did I need to follow, or who in the organization that I'm working in now can I learn from to get myself out there in the compliance aspect? Because that's the field that I wanted to specialize in. I didn't want to be a tech guy much anymore. I enjoy doing the policies and procedures and the documentation, which is the boring side of the business, but is a very important side of the business that every organization needs to follow.
Right. Yeah. So I'll be open with you, man. So I had a similar journey that took me through the help desk at some certain points in my life. And for me, man, there was 2 points, and it was like, I'm done crawling under people's desks.
Yeah, that's what I hated.
Do not want to do that anymore. I'm done. I told myself, I was like, I'm leaving that for the next generation. I put my time under that, and I don't want to do that anymore. And then 2, I'm done taking phone calls. I'm done managing in a queue. I was like, that, and no shade, no hate on it. I was just like, I'm done.
All the help desk you got to deal with.
Oh my gosh, Christian!
One of the biggest things that I wanted to get away from was part of that, because I mean, I understand we live in a very fast-moving pace world that technology changes on a regular basis. There is no such thing as you learn it once, that's it, you're done. Sadly, being in support, you're around people that don't know how to work a computer. You just gotta repeat yourself over and over again.
Oh my God.
I've gotten things like, how do I turn on my computer? I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, I'm sorry if you can't figure that out. It's you have the internet, you have the entire world in your back pocket on a regular basis, and people take it for granted. You can learn literally any type of skills that you want that interest you, as long as you know where to look and you use your resources. And being in that environment, I was just tired, just fixing computers, under a desk, working with regular workers at the company. I wanted to work with the senior leadership and executives.
Yes,
and that's the people that run the business, because I wanted to understand the business, and that was my ultimate goal.
It's like you want to start helping be a part of the larger picture. Like,
yes,
there's nothing wrong with those details that we're talking about. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, we're not saying that help desk is a terrible place or anything like that.
No,
but there is enough, when you've given enough of your time into it and you've worked long enough, that you just feel like, okay, I'm ready to graduate. And that's how I feel like a lot, there's some people who I've met who've been like lifetime help desk people.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's people like you and I where it's like, okay, I think we've given our time in, and we'd like to see what else is out there. What's that next level for us?
Being comfortable with being uncomfortable, because
the
process is going to be uncomfortable. It will
very much so. And speaking of that, Robert has a question over here. He's watching from YouTube. He's saying, what kind of hardships did you experience going from help desk to GRC analyst?
So from help desk to GRC analyst, well, let's see. Well, being the help desk, you're very technical. You're working with technology on a regular basis, computer systems, networks, servers, firewalls. Being a GRC analyst, you don't really work with the technologies much anymore. You're the one working with the executive leadership. You're creating documents and policies and procedures. You're presenting a lot. You're communicating. So my biggest thing is being a communicator was the biggest thing, because you're going to talk with leadership and executives and management and third parties and vendors and service providers. You got to be able to present and communicate. You got to be willing to talk to people. So being an introverted person to an extroverted person, that was the hardest thing for me, is the communication. I was not good at communicating right now, to tell you the truth. A year ago, 2 years ago, it would be very hard for me to even talk to you guys in this camera, because I was not used to it. But I've been getting better at it as I've been talking more to people. And that's the difference between somebody who is the fixer and the one that's the consultant. You got to be able to communicate, present. Don't be afraid to talk to people, build relationships, put yourself out there, and talk until you get better at it, where you can explain whatever situation you have to an organization or leaderships, from something simple to complex. That's what separates you between somebody that's in desktop support and an analyst or auditor or GRC.
I like, there's so much to it that I like. So, a lot of times I meet with people, Christian, and I hear about, like, I've got to memorize things. I've got to know these controls. I've got to be able to recite stuff. And it's kind of like, I think you're aiming for the wrong
Here's
thing.
one thing I'll say is you don't need to memorize all these frameworks and all these controls and all these policies. It's just knowing how to get the information, how to put it in place where it makes sense to what the organization needs. You as a consultant, you're not going to know all the answers. You're never going to know all the answers. There's going to be some question that somebody asks that you may not know of at all. And you got to be the one that finds that answer and presents it to them in a timely manner. There's a lot of times where I've been asked a lot of cybersecurity questions that I don't know this, or I don't know this technology, but I'll find it. You got to be the one that finds the answers. Go out
and
there
you still feel like the expert, right? Like, that doesn't take away from your character.
It's all about how you present yourself, ultimately, how you communicate. That's what determines, are you timid, or are you going to get out there and just put yourself out there, make it work?
I love what you're saying, Christian. I love it. I am attending this church right now, and I am saying, preach it, brother. I hear you. Okay. Amen. Because I agree with you completely. I think, and it's so weird, right? So there was this gap in generations, and I couldn't, if I sat down long enough to think about it, I'm sure I could find it. But there always seemed to be this gap in where it kind of like public speaking or putting yourself out there, or being able to present, like, those skills weren't really maximized or focused on. And I feel like because of that, and I'm not blaming anyone, I'm just saying it's just a fact, it's an observation. My observation since seeing that, it translates so heavy in the cybersecurity world. I hear that not just from you, Christian, but guess who I've had sitting next to me on this screen? I feel like it's the same message over and over. And so I've had people who've been in the industry for years, decades, right? And even someone as young in the industry as you, and it's the same message across. It's like, yes, you've got to be able to present, you've got to be able to communicate with folks. You cannot be timid. You can't, like, I appreciate people who are like, if everyone agrees to it, we're okay with it. I appreciate it. But I love when someone's like, it's this day, it's this time, be ready. If you can show up, you can show up. Or, you know what I mean? Just lay it down. It's like, great, I can work towards that expectation. And that's my, I have to work towards that. Yes, I like that.
Yeah, and one more thing is time management. Yes, time management is a very big thing, because when you're in a GRC analyst space, you're in a leadership position, you're going to have a lot of projects thrown at you. You got to figure it out. You're not going to have many people tell you what to do, like in support, for example, or help desk. You can have supervisor give you tasks. You do this, do this, do this. Okay. But when you're in an analyst role or a leadership role of some sort, they're going to give you tasks, and they're going to expect you to already know what you're doing and know how to handle those tasks in a timely manner. So time management is a very important aspect as a leader. Communication, of course.
And would you say that your role as an analyst, GRC analyst right now, is that, like, it just comes with it, as far as you are a leader of some type? Like, you are required to manage things big time, and like, the company looks at you as a leader.
Yes. And of course, there'll be some nuances, maybe a little bit of training or some guidance here and there when you're familiar with something, but you got to be the one to just step it up and be self-motivated, be disciplined, and handle your projects and ask any questions when you're unsure of anything, because you're never going to know it all. So, don't be discouraged, guys. You're never going to know all the answers. It's, are you able to get the answers? How can I get these answers? Who can I ask to get the right answers that I need?
Yeah. So, Robert, I hope that helps answer your question. If you need follow-up question, go ahead and throw it on there. Or anyone else who wants to ask more, feel free. But it sounds like one of the biggest hurdles, Christian, was definitely the introvert to extrovert. And not saying that you can't be an introvert, but needing to be extroverted when you're at work, when you're in the role and it's time to suit up, kind of thing. You're gonna have to be an extrovert in those moments. So, okay, all right, excellent. All right, so then. Yes. So Robert's saying, thank you. Very helpful. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Okay. So then you had the revelation. You felt like you wanted more. You started searching around. you saw some stuff and it rang out to you, and so you start going towards that direction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now tell us, what were some of the aspects to your moving in that direction? What were some of the things, for example, like, did you quit your job? Did you go full time into some sort of study mode that you were like, I can't do anything but this? Or, kind of what was your weaving in and out looking like when you got started in learning?
When I got started learning, I kept my job. I did not quit because, of course, anybody knows this process is going to take a while. It's not going to be an overnight thing. What I
Good
did is
point.
a lot of the studying overnight after hours, after work, normal 8 to 5 job.
Mm-hmm.
Next 2 or 3 hours after work would be studying, learning the frameworks and security technologies, etc., and learning just the language. Also, just working on my communication, just getting myself out there, working on my brand, as we touched earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Just working on my LinkedIn and other social medias. But a lot of it was just a lot of after hours work and not quitting, of course, my job, because I still needed to support myself.
Sure. Yep.
My advice to everybody is, once you start a new journey, a new process, work on the side with something that you find interested in and build it over time. And if eventually it becomes something, of
Mm-hmm.
course, you can transition. And that's, of course, what I did. And it's been an amazing journey ever since.
Yeah. So, would you say that it was very okay? So you had your 8 to 5, right? You had your normal daytime job, Monday to Friday, whatever that is, your schedule. And then on the side, it was taking up a lot. You started filling up your time.
Oh, you're cutting out? I think he's cutting out a little bit. Can you hear me? Jamie, I think you might cut out a little bit.
Can you see me now?
Yeah, you cut out.
Okay. Look, it's in the new world, more and more people working from home, and this is the kind of thing that happens in my neighborhood often. So sorry I left you hanging there, Christian. It was not intentional. Okay. Yeah. So I appreciate that people who know me and who've been watching for quite a while, they already know, and so they got my back. Thanks, Robert.
Here's
I appreciate
advice I got offered. Do you have fiber? Because I got fiber.
I do. Yeah. That's the crazy thing.
Yeah.
I had this whole neighborhood was just wired for fiber like 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so brand new, man. Anyhow, sorry.
No worries.
Okay, so you had your full-time job. Would you say that your extra time, did you feel like you were having to devote, like, let's just say outside of your job, there's 100% out there.
Mm-hmm.
You siloed 100% of your time into just the studies? Because I feel like there was a lot of different aspects that you mentioned into your journey, because you talked about your studying, you talked about your LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
you talked about, so you had all these different things.
Mm-hmm.
So can you help us, because we have people out there who kind of, maybe they're not yet on the verge of making the decision over because they just want more information.
Mm-hmm.
What do you feel like was, if you could break it down in percentages, or, from most important to least important, if that makes sense, where did you feel like a lot of your attention and focus during your studies or learning time, you feel like each of those things you mentioned you had to, develop?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
One of the biggest things is your branding, putting yourself out there. My LinkedIn and other social medias and my communication are what I devoted at least 50% of my time doing. The other 50% was obviously learning the frameworks and learning GRC and auditing analysts. So I'll talk first with the branding yourself. Before, honestly, I wasn't on LinkedIn until the beginning of this year. I didn't even really know much about LinkedIn. I knew about it.
Wow, really?
I was like, I'm not too familiar with it as much. But once I realized how much branding yourself, communicating with people and building relationships, how much that really mattered, even more than the skill sets, I was like, I want to go full force at this. Give it all I got, understand everything I can about LinkedIn, about the other social medias, and just give them, my full effort and brand myself to where I want to go, which I wanted to be, the analyst, auditor, et cetera, and go into cybersecurity. So I had to brand myself in that direction and completely get away from the IT guy. So that was part of my time. And the other time was learning the frameworks and auditors and analysts and just doing any type of research that I could for the industry that I wanted to get into.
Okay, that makes I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Got a question over here. Someone's asking from YouTube. Janae, hey Janae, she's coming in saying, how long did it take for you to land a new role once you began on this journey?
All right, Janae. So obviously everybody's position is different. Me, I'll just tell you straight up. It took me from when I started to when I landed my new role. It took me about 8 months. So it is not going to be a overnight thing or even next month possibly. If you can do it, great. If you know somebody. But for me, I didn't have that luxury. It took a lot of work, took a lot of sacrifice. I worked late after hours, after work, weekends because I really wanted it. I told myself, if I don't do this now, it's never going to happen. And you got to set time aside. If you really want it, you got to put in the efforts, brand yourself, learn the skill sets, communicate with people, build relationships, because all that compounds and that's how it works.
Yes, man. Yes. Let me tell you, like, it's almost like my heart wants to jump out of my chest, Cristian. When you say those things, especially when you bring up the word sacrifice, brother, let me tell you, man, I am like, you're speaking my language. It's like, yes, I feel like a kindred spirit here. Like, yes, it is not easy. It is not a short-term thing. It is not a sprint. It is a marathon. We are having to bust tail to learn and invest in ourselves. And it's not a quick thing. It is not, right? And one of the new things that I've been sharing with people recently, I'm like, learning these things, it's not like we're applying to be a cook at a restaurant or a busboy, right? We're learning skills and information for like those mid to senior level positions out there. And those aren't cheap positions either. And so it's going to take some time. And you, I think you said it great. Like your mileage is going to vary on how quick or later you get a job, right? And so, but the point is you definitely have to be consistent. That's the thing I pick up from you is whatever path you end up taking, however way you decide to get there, be consistent,
And
be sacrificing.
here's
Like
a couple things that I want to say.
go ahead. Yes.
Yeah. So I notice a lot of people also follow a lot of the certification route, and that's great. But I'll tell you
you're
guys.
Gonna go there. You're gonna let me. I'm interested to hear you, Cristian.
Before I landed my role, I'll tell you guys this. I went through about 20 interviews with 20 different companies, recruiters, hiring managers, etc. Certifications and the college stuff, they really don't care about that much anymore because everybody that's applying for that role has certification. They have a college degree. It's how are you going to stand out above them? Because in these kind of roles, it's going to be very competitive. They're going to be interviewing 10, 20 people. How are you going to stand out above those 10, 20 people? And the certification and the degree, it's just, I hate to say it. Now with the world of information we live in, you got to stand out. Your personality's got to stand out. Your skill sets and what you can offer the organization that is hiring you, selling yourself is what's going to make you stand out. And that's what I learned with going through all these interviews. I kept getting better from one interview to another, what they were asking, and I got better and better until I finally landed my last one. And I'll tell you guys what my hiring manager or my manager told me. He said, you must have either gone to a lot of interviews or you must have done a lot of work to really understand how the interview process really works, is what he told me. When he
That's what he told you?
When he said that, I was like, you know what? Yeah, I knew I had the role right away. And literally a week later, he messaged me, yep, you're the best one for the role. He messaged me on LinkedIn directly.
Get out of here, man. That's awesome, Chris.
I was like, after that, I knew I had the role. But it's about me having the confidence in myself and understanding what each interview process, what I went through each interview, what it taught me. It's all going to be consistent.
Wow, man. Dude, that was gold. Look, how far above would you say, or how important do you say it is to sell yourself versus the learning pieces?
I do believe it is 50-50, but I believe the selling yourself is probably 60%, honestly. It is just how you communicate, how you present. Do you have personality? Because a lot of these recruiters, sometimes they don't even care how good you are at your skill sets that you're selling yourself on. Do you have personality? Are you going to fit in with the company culture? Can you communicate? Because a lot of people don't have that. And that's one of the things my supervisor had to tell me as well, is a lot of these people couldn't even explain their own experience. They couldn't talk very much. They were just talking, but not really saying anything. And that's what made me stand out, like my personality, my communication, and just me being sociable. That's what's going to help you stand out. Literally, just be a little more sociable. Get yourself out there. Communicate. Don't be afraid to get out there and talk. And that'll help you stand out. There's been a lot of times where I've been complimented on that part. about me.
Where do you feel like in your journey of interviews specifically,
Mm-hmm.
where do you feel like can you look back and do you recall some milestones where you were like, this clicked and you just grew exponentially in this portion of the interviews, or was it as simple as saying, I learned to really look them in the eye, or, whatever it is? Could you give us a few, little morsels of this is what Cristian really gained in those 20 interviews that really helped you master,
Sure. Well, there's a couple things. There's a lot of every interview is going to be a little bit different. There's no such thing as having the exact same questions given to you. Just little morsels, like you said, is look them in the eye, be direct, answer the questions that they're asking you, but obviously put it in a way where it makes sense with your experience, because most of the questions they're asking you is going to be based on your resume. So if you have it on your resume, be ready to talk about it. And that is one of the things that my supervisor would tell me, that he would ask the potential employees on the position, and they couldn't even explain their own experience when he asked them.
Oh man!
If you cannot explain your experience in very simple terms where the hiring manager can understand it, you're not going to get the job. I'm just going to tell you right now.
That is gold right there, Cristian.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a big gold one right there. I feel like I see a lot of resumes sometimes that I'm like, you know how to do this, and not to knock people, but there's some people I do know, and I'm like, when did you learn this? And they'll be like, oh, I got certified for it, whatever. And I'm like, but when did you do it?
Yeah. Sometimes the certification and the real life experience are two different things. I'll tell you guys this right now. They're not the same thing.
Yes. And okay, so Cristian, I do go to a lot of webinars, right? When I can, I attend webinars pretty frequently, and I introduce myself to a lot of the big wigs in these things, right? So the CISOs and CISOs and information systems managers in different areas like that.
Yeah.
And they all will say something similar about, like, they're like, I see the certifications on people's resumes, and then I look at the experience and I don't see where that had a place to be applied to. And they're like, and it's just like what you said, man. They're like, if you haven't used your certification in a job, I know. They're like, I know. So
it makes your resume look better and maybe be a conversation starter, but if you can't explain it to some extent, it's going to be difficult to talk about it and present in the interview process.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I will say this, I feel like that was a lot of interviews to have within any time frame in that 8 months. That I'm scared to ask this.
Go ahead.
How many applications did you put out to get that many interviews?
All those? None. 0 applications. I did not apply for a
Shut the front door.
Yeah.
Hush your mouth. You did 0 applications and got all those interviews?
One. And it was all through recruiters, through branding myself. And that's why I focused a lot of my branding and really getting myself out there. My pictures that you say are fly. It's really
they are.
Yeah, how you present yourself. If you present yourself as a professional and your profile attracts the attention of the recruiters reach out to you, and they're the first line of defense to the organization. They're the ones going to contact you first before they decide to take you over to the hiring manager or not. And just about every single time, they took me over to the hiring manager. And there's times where I was very close to getting hired, but for whatever reason, they didn't see me as somebody that fit. Of course, you're not going to get every single position you apply for or interview for. Obviously, every single one that I went through was a little bit discouraging because, it is time going through interviews after interviews. It's a little bit discouraging as well at times, but ultimately you can't fail unless you quit. I don't believe in failure because it's just something that can teach you on how to get better for the next step or the next endeavor or the next process.
Man, you floored my mind just now, Cristian. I hear what you're saying and it makes sense. I just am like, let me tell you that I've talked to friends. I've talked to people who are like, they're putting hundreds of applications in and they're getting no callbacks or, very few interviews. And I keep chalking that up right now to end of the year when all the organizations they have their hiring freeze, not just a hiring freeze. they have like a budget freeze, right? So there's no money being spent on hiring people. There's no money being spent on training. There's no money being spent on any extra activities outside of the holiday activities that they're already earmarked for. They've run out of their pool of cash kind of thing. And they're waiting for the new year to get their, it's kind of like the kids. So I was explaining to someone today, I was like, they're waiting for the new year so they can get their allowance refilled. And then they go wild and start, they can start the hiring process again and things like that. So, but still, man, 20 interviews, and more power to you, Cristian. I more power to you, brother. Okay. I just want to say that. Shavita's over here. Hey, wow. 0 application. Yes, Shavita. Yeah. Isn't it crazy?
It is possible. It's about putting yourself out there. As somebody that is a leader in this industry, and they will come to you if you put yourself out there, right? Trust me. Relationships, communication, all that matters more.
You're hearing it, everyone. You're hearing it. I feel like this is no shade on you, Cristian. I feel like I hear this message all the time. And it's just like, it's just another yes, like it's another hammer in the nail thing, or nail in the coffin. It's like, yes, this is true. Like, you have to work on these things. It is not going to be enough to just, like you're saying, it's not enough to just get the educational pieces of this.
No, not anymore. And because technology is moving so fast, the education aspect can't teach you everything about the technology and cybersecurity world that we live in now. It is moving so quickly. You got to get out there and learn whatever you need to learn to be in the field that you want to be in. Ultimately, that's what it's all about.
I appreciate this. This is one of those bombs. So everyone, if you're just tuning in and you're just watching starting now, make sure you rewind it back about like 10 minutes ago and listen from there, because Cristian, man, amazing stuff right there. Okay. I just really want to reiterate to everyone, please listen to the stuff that Cristian was saying, because there is merit to it. There is value in what he is sharing with us tonight. He is on that side. He gets to tell us, yes, these things worked out for me. But Cristian, because you're singing the same song that everyone else before you who's gone to the other side is, it's just further confirmation, brother, on what you're talking about, man. So thank you for sharing that with us. Okay, thank you.
I will share one last thing. Is obviously a lot of people get discouraged because it is difficult. It is very competitive. It's all about you getting just good enough to land that one role, or be in that one position, or just be in that position one time, and then it just changes for you. Because now I'll tell you guys this, I have recruiters reach out to me on a regular basis. Today I just had a recruiter reach out to me about another position, another remote position, to tell you the truth. So if you get it right and you do it just one time, don't give up hope, don't quit. But once you get it right and you make it work in your favor, it will come to you and things will change, as long as you want it bad enough.
Yes. And a lot of the after show conversations that I have, that has been something else, and I've heard others talk about it in other webinars and podcasts. It's like, man, once you get in, it can be a pain to get in. Once you're in, it is much easier after you're in than it is when you're not. So,
because I believe it's the skill sets you acquire that once you're already in, all the communication, all the skill sets that you need to be in this field, they transfer. People look at the money aspect, but the skills are ultimately what get you ahead in life. Ultimately.
Fantastic, man. Fantastic. Okay. All right. So we're talking about some of the hurdles that you weave, some of the learned things through the application or interviews, through the interviews. Where do I go from here? Because you hit on so many good spots, but you get hired finally. You're on the team. Tell us how your experience. So this is your first foray into technically the cybersecurity umbrella, right? And so what's your experience like in there?
Well, right now it is a very fast-paced environment. I'll tell you guys, it is way different than what I'm used to. It is a IT service provider for alternative investments. You guys can look me up on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. You guys will see the company I work for. It's an alternative investment IT service provider. They do everything from IT support to administration. I'm part of the cybersecurity side. So I work for a red team organization. They do a lot of penetration testing, risk assessments, I'm around very highly technical people that will tell you anything about technology, and they'll explain it to you at a very high level that it'll confuse you, because it confuses me sometimes. I'm like, wow, there's a lot I need to learn. But what I do for the organization is part of the GRC side is I create all the policies and procedures for the SEC clients that we work with. Specifically, we work with hedge funds, private equities, investment banking, the policy procedures, also creating supplementary documentation, which is example, acceptable use policies, business continuity, disaster recovery, and incident response policies. And all of this is created based on the organization, what they have in place, their cloud environments, their systems and technologies they use, leadership, executives, and the current policies and procedures that they have. Sometimes these organizations do not implement what they are saying they are doing. So it is our job to make sure that they are being compliant and their documentation is in place with what they are doing and what technologies they have.
Oh, I love a position like that. I'd love a position like that, Cristian, being able to tell someone you're messing up, get it fixed now or else.
Yeah.
That would be that. Yeah, that goes back to my help desk days when you had to tell someone no for a legitimate reason. Is like, shit, I can tell them no. So sorry, I'm getting. Let me come back to my professional self. Right now.
So one last thing is, if you guys want to get into the GRC space, get comfortable with Word and Excel, because you're going to live there a lot. And now it's huge. Obviously, the cloud is huge, but those are the two things you're going to be using on a regular basis: creating policies and procedures, writing documentation, doing a lot of evidence gathering in the organization, and then create policies based on the evidence gathered. That could be the technologies, the administration, etc. It's very broad. I can talk.
Yeah.
And I don't want to confuse
and that's fine. You would you say that you're learning? I want to be careful how I say this because I don't want to make it sound rude. Would you say that you're learning the things that you learn prepared you for this job specifically, or did it allow you to kind of like open your mind to, like, you thought you were going to go for this one type of job, but because of the way you learned this information, it allowed you to actually expand more than that? Does that make sense? The
information that I learned now getting into this role allowed me to expand way more, because obviously learning something, implementing it on your own, and doing it in real life in a real world scenario environment is two very different things. And plus, being a service provider, we work at a very fast pace. You're in meetings all day long. You got projects stacked on you, and you got to meet certain deadlines. I believe it was everything in my past that helped me get to this level. Just, working in technology a little bit, just understanding the basics. When I get into this field, it's better to understand, some technologies. I got to give you guys that advice: is understand some of the basic technologies. What EDR, endpoint detection and response, are. Malware detection, remote software, Office 365, the cloud, which is massive. AWS, Azure. These are huge organizations that a lot of businesses use nowadays. So if anybody needs advice, you guys can all message me on LinkedIn. I'm always free to give advice to anybody who needs it, and some guidance, because this is what the world is going to. This is what technology is and what organizations are really pushing for.
I'm going to actually link Cristian's LinkedIn in the comments, you guys.
Sure.
So you can...
I do have other social medias, but I can always share those later.
Absolutely. I'll be happy to put them on there. Afterwards, if you share them with me, I will make sure to put them in, post them up so that people know how to get to them from there too. Sure. Okay. So you learned a lot of this stuff. What are some of your observations where you kind of were like, things that just kind of piqued your mind a little? You kind of like, I didn't know about this. Was there any surprises? Maybe that's how I put it. Were there any surprises in your job when you got there and you're as you've been there that you were kind of like, I didn't really think about this because of whatever reasons, and now I'm like, okay, it makes more sense now or something?
The communication aspect is presenting. That's one of the things I've been working on a lot, because you got to present to leadership and executive management of the organizations that we're working with on a regular basis. Present what they have in place, what they don't have in place. So being a big communicator is my biggest hurdle, because I'm working behind IT. You don't talk to many people as compared to now you're talking to everybody on a regular basis. Also, being a part of so many meetings. Obviously, as a leader, you're going to be a part of meetings, whether you like it or not. People like meetings, people don't. It's a part of the corporate America that we live in now. You got to meet, you got to present. Also, a lot of technologies and just terminologies that I wasn't aware of, working around engineers that do all the penetration and all the hacking. I didn't know all these technologies and systems and processes. I was like, there's so much that I need to learn. Obviously, I'm not the one going to be doing that, but to understand it and be able to present it to people who need to understand what it is, why we're doing these assessments, etc. Those are the biggest gaps, is that transition.
Now, and everyone remember, as insightful as what Cristian is sharing, and even for his title, not all GRC analysts jobs are the same.
Yeah, they're all different. There's no such thing as the same job in every business.
Right. But getting insight into his role can help us, empower us, and educate us for other roles too. Like, there's definitely nothing wrong in that. But just I want to make sure as a caveat to this is that everyone, as you're listening to this, not because the presentations and Excel and Word is not your jam. Not to say it can't be your jam, but that and maybe because you're looking for more technical pieces of the work, that there might be an analyst position out there where it does call for those technical pieces. I'm with you, Cristian Lowe. I like the idea of what you've described in your job, and that definitely interests me. That is definitely a piece of my style. I'll put it that way. So,
a couple little pieces here that I'll say. Even though I'm not much into technical, I still have to understand technology. Office 365, SharePoint. I don't know if anybody knows what Citrix virtual desktop environments are. A lot of organizations are now hybrid. They work in the cloud a lot, so we have to get access to their cloud environments and be able to maneuver through the environment. Or firewalls. You got a Cisco Meraki firewalls example. You got to get into the firewalls and review the configurations, understand what you're looking at. So even though I'm not technical and I'm not the one creating these or implementing these technologies for the organization, I still got to review all these, because as an analyst or auditor, you're going to be reviewing all these technologies. So once you're in them, you're going to understand how they work and how they function. So that's my bit of advice.
Fair enough. Appreciate that. Would you say that the field that you're working in, this was what definitely interested you when you saw that, the cybersecurity field was out there, and when you basically is from the beginning to where you're at now, was that the definite area you wanted to get to?
Yes, because I'm honestly not the most technical person, and even like in IT support and system administration, when I had these positions, I still felt like I even lacked a lot in technology. There's a lot more technical people that could break into a system and hack into a system and understand all these networks and et cetera on such a very high technical level. It would even confuse me. I was like, man, there's a lot I'm missing. And I realized this is not where I want to stay. This is not what I'm ultimately good at. And because it's all about how you see it and how you understand it. And I understood the GRC, the policies, procedures, that side of it better. And it just worked for my personality. It's all about what you want long-term, what interests you, and what you can see yourself doing long-term, ultimately.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. So you're in there now. You've had a little bit of time there already. What would you say is in whether it's your short-term future or long-term future, do you have some sights set somewhere now that you're in the field, whatever that means? Do you have something you're thinking of for the future?
Ultimately, the sky's the limit. There is no specific way to pivot, but I do see myself staying in this side of cybersecurity. I enjoy it. I look forward to it. And obviously, if there's another opportunity that makes more sense for my situation and what I want, obviously, I'm always open for it. I'm never attached to a position or place in life, because I believe if you want to grow, you got to get yourself out there, get uncomfortable. Never stay in a single place in life where you feel stuck, because you can always learn something more from somebody else. But I see myself as maybe even transitioning to a more higher level, executive role. Maybe like a CISO or somebody above that, just somebody at the higher level that makes sense for the organization.
Okay, burning question. Did you feel, what was the biggest, did you end up making a whole lot more money than you were on the help desk? than you did
More
on the
than
help desk?
yeah, more than well before I was system admin before this position. So double what I was making now. Well,
Okay.
double. I'm making double now. It is past the 6-figure range. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So definitely worth the work and the investment, the time, everything that you put into it for you, like as far as financially speaking, because we've
Yeah.
been talking about a lot of the non-financial aspects, which I
Mhm.
feel, I hear you on that. But let's be honest, a lot of people, they're looking at that and they're thinking, I've seen some people have brought to me, they're like, look, they want me to be a cybersecurity analyst over here. And I'll be like, that says 40,000 a year.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Never settle yourself, short. Don't just take the next opportunity that comes your way. If it doesn't make sense with what
uh-huh.
you want, people just take the next job or the next opportunity just because they throw some money at you. Ultimately, it's not about the money long term. It's what do you want? It's your lifestyle. Look at it is how's it gonna help your life in the end? And does
Mhm.
this make sense? Does this position actually make sense in where I want to go? That's what you got to look at it as.
I appreciate that, Christian. That's a good question to ask. We all should be asking ourselves, where do we want to go?
Mhm.
And then go for it.
Yeah.
I tell you, man, tonight, I think one of the biggest pieces that I appreciated about hearing you speak tonight was the sacrifice part.
Mhm.
I feel a lot of times I speak, not with a lot of people, but I do speak with some people who are like, they're a little, sometimes can be a little, what's the word? I can't think of the word. It's not lazy, but it's close to that. Or maybe not as there's not enough fire in my mind,
They're
right?
not driven.
Yes, there you go. The
Mhm.
drive seems a little slow to get there, right? And so I'm
Mhm.
like, you're doing what? You're doing, and like you, man. So when I started the learning journey, for me, it was like I took the attitude of you got time to lean, you got time to clean.
Mhm.
So if I
Here's
had time to go hang out with the guys, play some video games, watch movies, I was like, I gotta cut all that out, man.
Yeah,
Gotta
if
cut.
pay the price today for better tomorrow and do what others are not willing to do today so you can do what others can't do tomorrow. That's ultimately
Yes.
how you have to live it.
Yes. And I feel like there is benefit in that. If you are the one who benefits most. And I've got a family, everyone. I've got a
Mhm.
family. I got 2 kids, I got a wife. And so I hear you. I
Mhm.
hear you guys.
And for me, I'm single, no kids, so obviously all that extra sacrifice was
Ooh.
easier for me in my situation. It's a little different. Some people have kids, etc., so you have to take more time for them. Me, if I needed to work after hours till midnight, 1 in the morning, and then get up at 5 a.m. the next day, it didn't matter to me because I don't have any
Mhm.
bills to take care of. So I'm in a little bit different situation, but everybody has their own situation.
Well, and I'll tell you, Christian, I've got kids. And so for me, like I saw where the time was, and I'm grateful that my family was supportive and are still supportive of it, right? They've been super supportive of it. And there's just been a lot that's happened. And so for them to be very forgiving and being like, Dad's really working hard now because there's some benefits that are going to come later, he says. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And so it's like, yes, there are, I promise. Whether it be my job is not as hard as it has to be today, whether it means that we're able to live a better lifestyle than we have today, doing work that Daddy really enjoys doing. Yes, you will benefit from it. Promise, promise. So, hey, we're at this point in the show where I like to, when right before we end, I like to give my guests a moment to kind of share a message with the audience. So this is the time where I'm going to give you the screen and just you. You get the opportunity to share whatever it is you want to, Christian, and then I will be right back on. Okay.
Alrighty. Alrighty, guys. If you guys are still watching, obviously understand what it is you ultimately want. Don't be afraid of asking questions and reaching out to people if you need any help and assistance. Relationships are what matter more, I believe, than the skill sets. It's ultimately about who you know and ultimately putting yourself out there and really, taking it to the next level. Don't give up hope when it becomes difficult because this journey is obviously can be a little rocky and maybe uncertain at times, but it has been an amazing experience talking to you guys. I really hope I can I've given you guys as much advice as I could without confusing you guys. I really wanted to get in detail with everything that I do, but I know it would go way over time. And I appreciate Jamie having me on this podcast of his. It's been amazing, and I'll be sharing a lot of my other social medias to him later to share with you guys. If any of you guys want to follow me on my other social medias, I'm on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So I work on all of them on a regular basis. It's all about getting yourself out there. Don't be afraid. So we'll just kind of wait for him a little bit. It has been great.
Awesome, man. I'm glad to hear all that. So yes, when Cristian gets me the links for his social medias, everyone, I will post them in the comments. I'll post them in the episode comments, and I'll put it just as a separate comment on my personal LinkedIn. Okay. Cristian, man, thank you for coming in tonight. Thank you for being willing to share your story with all of us. If you're watching us on the replay, make sure that you give a shout out to Cristian so he knows, so he can be encouraged by you watching the replay and let him know. Man, we'll have to bring you on again another time so you can tell us more about the work and maybe some of your personal, like not observations but beliefs, I guess, kind of in a way. Some of your personal beliefs in the cybersecurity world. And that way we can do like Cristian's teaching moments or something like that. Okay.
I do appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yep. I'm going to put you in the green room. Go take a break for a minute, and then we'll come back after I wrap up the show, and we'll chat for a minute. Okay.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Cristian.
Take care.
Wow, everyone. I'm always encouraged when I get to bring people on who, there's just something about when you have a goal, then you reach your goal, and it makes it feel so attainable. Because I know all of us can relate to having a goal and being at that starting point. Everyone can relate to it, no matter what the goal is, okay? But we all sometimes don't get to share in the end goal, or at least the hope of what that end dream, or, what that expected, what we are hoping for. We don't ever get to all see that. So when I get to see the people who come on to my YouTube or my show here, and they come on and they get to share a story, and I hear them achieving their dreams, their goals, it just lights this fire. It makes me feel any dream, any goal is attainable. It's absolutely attainable. And that includes you guys. You all have that same opportunity. Cristian's experience is not limited for just Cristian. Cristian was able to tap into it, and he rode that wave, and he is doing excellent for himself, and he's setting new goals so that he can achieve new dreams. And he'll be back on when he's like, yeah, I'm a CISO. And the next thing will be like, yeah, now I'm running my own company, actually. And it's just going to be like, dude, freaking awesome for you. I want to applaud each of you as you reach your goals. So make sure in the future that you message me and you tell me, yo, hi, man, I reached my goal today, whatever it is, and let's celebrate with you. Okay. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me tonight. I hope you all have a great weekend, and we will be back next week. Okay. So take care, everyone. We'll talk to you later.